Hey everyone, it's me, Dread Zombie or Gavin here, and today's subject is about weight. Growing up, I have always been a fat kid. Ever since elementary, ever since middle school, I have been fat. Like I'd say like over 200 pounds fat. It was pretty bad. And it wasn't until high school that I finally started changing my weight, and it was only because of a doctor visit. I feel like if I never had this doctor visit, I would have never lost weight. I think I would have stayed the same, be this fat guy and shit like that. So what happened during this fucking doctor visit was, it was a normal checkup, but I had these spots, these like patches on my neck, right? It was these dark patches. They looked like dirt that was on my neck, and no matter how hard I'd wash them, they would never go away. And that was been a big concern for like ever in my life. And it turns out that was a sign of me almost having diabetes, or pre, how would you say, a sign of possibly having diabetes in the future because of my habits. And to be honest, I don't blame it. I was pretty unhealthy back then. Like my mom, she would we would eat out a lot. Like my mom would cook, yeah, but like she would prefer to not cook because she doesn't really like cooking. She still doesn't, and I would just eat it away. I would always have candy like every other day. My mom would buy us candy. She was spoiling us, but it was bad, right? Me and my sister were the same off. And in this doctor visit, when they told me, yeah, if you don't change your ways, you're gonna have diabetes in the future, most guaranteed. I was scared. I was how old was I? I was like 14, 15. This was pretty recent. Not that recent though. I'd say like a good like couple years. But I was scared, right? I was like, "Oh my god, I do have to change my ways or I'm gonna grow up having problems. I don't want that, right? I want to be healthy. I want to grow up the best I could be." And it was my grandma who took me, and my grandma heard this information too, and she was like, "Oh my god, that's terrible. I'm gonna help you, all right?" And that's exactly what we did during the whole summer. I ate healthier. I ate a lot of chicken because the thing is, the only person who hated this healthy lifestyle yeah, healthy lifestyle was my mom. My mom hated it a lot because every time she'd cook me something, it was something bad or something I couldn't eat at the time, right? So I'd always have to like get rid of it and stuff. And there was one time where she just bought me Mexican food and I didn't eat it at first, right? And then she was about to get mad, but my grandma was like, "No, Mexican food, like food from restaurants, is a little better from fast food, because it's kind of like a home cooked meal." So I ate it, and she would just constantly get me Mexican food a lot, and I was getting sick of it. So I got into a fight with her. I was like, "Stop giving me this food. Like, yeah, it's healthy, but I have to like eat other things too, not just the same thing from a restaurant." So my mom basically just grabbed a pack of chicken, grabbed some flavoring for the chicken, and just made chicken for me every day. Like that's what I ate for weeks, just chicken. And of course, at the end of it, I was getting sick of it, but it was working because I didn't do a lot of exercise. I'll admit, I didn't do that much exercise. I just walked. Like walking helps. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Don't listen to those bodybuilder TikToks that say you need to do this, that, that. Like, yes, you can do all that, but I'm gonna be honest with you. For me, all I did was walk for an hour or two, right? Just walk like miles and miles, and I lost the weight in a reasonable time. I lost a lot of weight, and I was so happy by the process I made, right? Because I was a completely different person by those 3 months. Like, I'm telling you, 3 months was a lot of work, and I was weighing let's see, I weighed 240 when I started, and when I was done, I weighed 210. So that means I lost 30 pounds. I didn't eat much too. That was my choice. I practically like kind of ate one meal a day, and I cut it there. That's how I like to lose weight. It's a little bit of a fast, I guess. I mean, I'm currently doing it now where I barely eat anything or anything out just to lose a little bit of weight. But yeah, I was so happy with myself. I felt better too. Like generally, if you eat healthy, you feel a lot better waking up in the morning, and I loved it. And I was bragging to my friends when I first saw him at school, like one of my best friends, right? I was like, "Look, dude," and I was like touching my stomach how it wasn't as big, and he's like, "Yeah, dude, you look a little different." I was like, "I know, I'm so happy," but it was short lived because at that time, my grandma and my mom were living together. They were, splitting on a house, but something happened and my mom moved out. She wanted to take me, but I'm gonna be honest. All my life, I had a strong connection with my grandma. I still do to this day. So I kind of argued the fact that I didn't want to live with her fully. And I know some of you guys are like, "What?" But I'm gonna be honest. For the first couple, just genuinely, for like most of my first early years, for what my grandma tells me is, I was with her. My mom was busy at, my mom had me at a young age. She had me at like 21. So she still had like stuff like college and work, and she didn't have time to really raise me and stuff. So my grandma took over, and even my grandma said I would call her mom sometimes, which I honestly believe. I do believe that I would probably call her mom. But yeah, so that's why I argued. I was like, no, I want to do like, can we do like a part time thing? Like, when like a mom and dad, separate, the kid goes, to the grandma, to the dads in the weekend, and then mostly the moms. And my mom was like, fine, because she knew how much my grandma meant to me. So we did that, right? But the more and more that went on, right, I would spend majority of the time with grandma. Like, I would spend time with her on the weekends. And she got more angry, and my grandma was kind of like saying, hey, if you want this to keep going, you might have to spend your breaks at school with your mother. And I was a little sad, right? But I understood. So that's what I did. And my mom didn't give a shit about my healthy lifestyle, right? Like I said, it would annoy her. Like, she would try to cook something, and I'd say, no, that's not right for me. And she would just fucking say, all right, don't eat it, and leave. Or, like, most of the time, she would just buy out, like, some restaurant food and said, quote, it's healthy. That's one thing I always hated about my mom. She would always be like, it's healthy, even though it really isn't. And she doesn't really know what she's talking about. I mean, me and my grandma would spend, like, some time looking at it. My grandma mostly, she would research what was healthy. And I trust my grandma. I never trust my mom when it came to it, because she would always lie to me and shit. So I would never trust her. And whenever she said it was healthy, in my head, I would indicate it's not. So I stayed with her more and more, and I ate healthier less and less, and that practically was bad. I actually gained weight, right? And the real killer was the winter break. She basically just normally didn't cook at all, and she would just get a bunch of like every day was a new fast food place. One day Chick-fil-A, next McDonald's, and she just didn't care. And it was either that or don't eat. And I just followed her because I couldn't cry to my grandma, because my grandma isn't my parent. So I just had to do what my mom told me. And that whole year I was just gaining more and more weight throughout my freshman year of high school, and I became bigger than before. I remember distinctly what broke my heart was when we went back to the doctors, right? She said hi to me because she recognized me, obviously, and she looked at my weight. And if she like weighed me the summer that this was in like January, I believe, January, February. So this was a couple months after the summer I lost all the weight. And what she told me was, "Oh, you said you lost all this weight, then why does it look here that you've only lost 1 pound?" I was heartbroken that I gained all that weight back. And I didn't even notice it because of my mom's lies. She would always say, no, you look good. You still look thin. You still look slim and shit. I didn't. The marks weren't there anymore, thank God, since I did cut down a lot of sugar. It was just a bunch of unhealthy stuff. I was so mad at my mom. I was furious because all that hard work and suffering I did, the workouts and stuff and eating healthy. I know I say that I'm saying that a little bit over dramatically, but it was wiped out with no hesitation, no shield, no nothing. It was just like, boom, you gained the weight. I was pissed, and I didn't know what to tell the doc, so I just said, I don't know, I am kind of eating bad again. And the doc was like, okay. And I went home and I just sat there and I wanted to cry because I did all that work just to look better, and I'm just this big guy now. And at first I didn't care, right? I did have my little sad moment, but I was like, nah, it's whatever. I am what I am, right? But I can only say that from the time being, because after that, at school's always been rough for me. I'm gonna admit that. I grew up as a fat guy, and I didn't talk to a lot of people, and I always hated the fat jokes some people would make. Even sometimes my friends would make them from time to time, and they weren't as for bad. No, they weren't trying to be mean or anything. They were just trying to yeah, we're playing around because we're guys and shit. But honestly, they always hurted me on the side. like they always did. And after being like a little bit thinner and looking a little bit better, I kind of wanted that back, right? But I didn't know what to do. I was still spending more majority with my mom, and my grandma finally pointed it out. She was like, "Hey, you do look a little bigger," and I was like, "I know." And I was, sad. And then summer hit, and then I gained more weight on top of that. Like apparently, like I was still at 240, like the doctor said. But as I weighed myself, right, I was like a little bit higher. And like if you saw old photos of me, I looked like a big giant, and I hated myself every time I looked in the mirror. So when my mom finally moved out of that place, when it got warmer, I told my grandma, I was like, "Hey, I'm done being this fucking fat guy. Let's lose the weight again. Let's try this again." And I was spending majority with my grandma again, because my mom was, she was trying to look for a place, and she was staying with a friend of hers. So I didn't want, I was actually able to argue not to live with her because I didn't like her friend, blah blah blah. And my grandma was like, "Yeah, let's do it. We have the time. Nothing's gonna stop us now." We did it again. I went on walks, and I even fast harder too. I would barely eat anything, and my grandma was so proud of me. And I started in March, and then not in March, like around May-ish, May or April. And I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot more than before. Let's see. Let's say I was like 245, I believe. I think when I 43, 45, and by the end of it, I weighed 215. I know I said I lost more, but that's what the scale weighed. I felt like I lost more because I felt way better. I felt 10 times better, and I didn't want my mom to ruin it again. Eventually, my mom moved back with my grandma since she said that all the prices were too high on these places, and she just didn't want to deal with them. So she begged my grandma to come back, and she did. And thankfully, I was able to maintain it. But again, my mom was mainly the person who was supposed to feed me, because after she came, my grandma was like, "Hey, I'm not going to feed you, all right? Your mom's going to do that job." And I was expressing my worries. I was like, "Well, what about, the bad food? Like, I don't want to eat bad food again and gain all that weight again," because I was so scared of looking like that big guy. I couldn't handle those fucking kids at school whispering about how fat I was and how the fucking ugly I was and shit. I hated that, because all my life I always dealt with annoying kids like that. I was the one kid that, like, those, that little friend group, that friend group of three who all think they're tough shit, want to pick on. And I never knew why, because I tried my damnedest not to talk to many people, but I guess talking to no fucking people makes you a bigger target to be made fun of. And it's just like, why? I never did anything to you. I always hated that. And my sister gets it too, and it's bad. I don't know if some of you guys may never had that, but like I always told myself, why do I keep to myself and I still get bitched on? Even though I lost the weight, I still didn't like the way I looked because of this bullying, and all my life I've just been, put down and put down like I was nothing. And during the winter, I couldn't walk anymore after I lost the weight a second time. So I was like, great, now what am I going to do? And my grandma's just like, just watch what you eat, and when it gets warmer, we'll go on our walks again. I promise. And I was like, okay. And I made that a promise, but again, my mom was trying to make me gain the weight. But this time I was like, no, fuck no. I'm not doing that. Like, I saw myself getting bigger again, and my grandma was like, hey, I think you're getting a little bigger again. I was starting to think back of the times I was just super big, and it was because of my mom, My mom fucking she didn't care regardless. And I told my mom my concerns, and she was like, no, you still look thin, you still look fine, things she said before. And I just never believed her. At sometimes she would convince me again because she's mom, but most of the time I was like, no, I'm looking big again, and I refuse to go back to that fucking biggie I was back in freshman and sophomore year. No, I'm not doing that. So in an outburst, when one day I went home and she bought pizza and ice cream, I just pushed the pizza to a side and walked to my room. And she was like, "You're not gonna eat?" I said, "No." And she's like, "Why? What's wrong?" I didn't tell her. And as soon as she said, "All right, I'm gonna go get your sister," and my sister didn't want to eat the pizza too. So I walked up to her and she's like, "You just not gonna eat on the stuff I got? I was supposed to make it a good night for us." And I felt bad because yes, I love my mom, and I know she doesn't mean bad at the end of the day, but I couldn't take these lies she was telling me and shit. So I just took matters in my own hands and I just stopped eating. I would only eat things my grandma had. My grandma would buy a lot of fruit. I was just eating that mostly, and I would just eat like one protein meal. I'm still doing that now too, as a fact, because this story takes place like barely a couple weeks ago, or at least now, with the pizza stuff and ice cream. I just said no, I'm not eating that anymore, and I just kind of try to neglect my mom's food or anything she brings home. I vow not to eat it for a long time because I just refuse to hate myself. I want to look in the mirror and feel good, because this year and last year I generally didn't feel good about myself. The only time I felt great about myself was in the summer of this year because I think that was my peak, like kind of like thing. I looked slim, I looked good, I was fitting in new clothes and shit like that, and I want to grow out of those hoodies. And I always wear hoodies and sweatpants. That's one thing. That's one of my attire that I hate. I hate to admit it, but I'm gonna admit it. I smelled a lot. I wore deodorant, but I didn't wear cologne. So I guess it wasn't enough, but like sometimes I'd come home smelling pretty bad. And I don't know, I just got really depressed throughout this year because of how I felt about myself. And I wanted to do better. I didn't want to sit fucking around and just gloat and wait for a fucking miracle to happen. I want to be better. I want to do better for myself. So, yeah. I don't hate my mom. I don't think I hate my mom for anything she did, making me fat again. Of course, I was mad at her, and I was always, telling my grandma how mad I was, but I never truly said I hated her because I know she was just trying to make me feel better because that's what a mom should do, right? But the way she did it was pretty bad. I don't want people to tell me lies and say everything's going to be okay because no, that's not how it works. So yeah, I took matters in my own hands when I saw it happening again for the second time. I started doing some home workouts. I started lifting these weights, and I started doing, crutches, sit-ups to make me look a little bit more better. To have some activity and eating less so I could burn some calories from that said activity. Because as the time of this video, it's February and it's cold. I'm just waiting for it to get warmer so I can walk again and fully look my best. That's truly what I want. And because of one doctor's visit, I became kind of like a little bit obsessed of just looking a little thinner, because I want to look good, because all my life I just looked in the mirror and I saw this fat guy with a big double chin, big body, extra extra large fucking clothing. I don't want to do that anymore, man, I just want to look good, and I think this is the best way for me to do it right now. My mom, of course, hates the fact that, like, I'm not eating as much anymore, but no, I'm sorry. I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to be better because I want to look better. So, yeah, that's basically a little story time and a little bit of a rant for me for life and stuff like that. I'm going to try to post more, I guess. I don't know what I was trying to say. I'm gonna try to post more, but it's like I'm running out of ideas already. But I'll figure it out, don't worry. But yeah, sorry for the shitty storytelling again. Maybe I should just nickname it that, shitty storytelling, because I can't talk well while being recorded. Sorry. I'm trying to get better at it, but like damn. I don't know why, but sometimes it's just kinda hard for me to just do that. I just I just see like I just blank. So I'm gonna try to get better at that. But yeah, that's basically it for this story time. I'll see all y'all later.